Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again. If it's your first time here, this is Thailand Bound. My name's Peter and I talk about all things Thailand. Right, today is a volume 2. Today's upload is a volume 2. Last week I put out a video, 30 tips to help make your visit to Thailand a lot more enjoyable. And I'm going to do the same today. I'm going to give you another 30 tips. Now, this list isn't so much a kind of 10 scams to look out for or 30 things you shouldn't do. There is one or two of those sort of things in here, but they're just tips to help to enhance your trip so you have a much better experience when you visit Thailand. Okay, so just before we get into this video, I just want to clear up something on the last video. You know, generally speaking, you should stay away from drugs in Thailand. There's very, very harsh penalties. And when I mentioned that point in the last video last week, I was talking globally about all drugs. Basically, stay away from them if you know, such harsh penalties in Thailand. And I had quite a few messages, quite a few actually, where people said, oh, hang on a minute, haven't they just legalized cannabis? Now, unfortunately for me, when I was talking about the drugs in a global kind of way, hard drugs, soft drinks, I was saying stay away from everything, but I ended the point I was making by saying don't even roll up a joint. Well, of course, everybody jumped on that and said, well, hang on, they've legalized marijuana. So they have, that's true. It was about 2 weeks ago they legalized it. Thailand is not going to be the new Amsterdam of Asia. It's not like, you know, you can smoke it wherever you want to. One of the points I'd raised with somebody else who wrote in, I said, you know, because he didn't believe me, I said, you know, it's very, very strictly controlled. You need a license to grow it. You know, try rolling a joint on Sukhumvit Road and light it up in front of a policeman and see what happens. So yeah, technically it has been legalized now, but if you're one of those guys who are into that, I'm not. If you are, check it out very, very carefully, because I'd hate to see you go on holiday and come unstuck because of this. And it is very strictly controlled. You need a license to grow it. As I say, you can't just walk down the street smoking it. Okay, so I hope that's cleared up the point on the drugs. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into this week's 30 tips to help you in Thailand. So I did talk about ATM machines the last time. I did say that if you use an ATM machine, there's a cost associated with it, 220 baht, whether you take out 1,000 baht or 20,000 baht. But something I hadn't mentioned, I do know this, but I had forgotten actually, and I think it's so important to let you know about it. In most countries around the world, when you put your ATM card into a machine and you ask to withdraw some cash, once a transaction has gone through, what will happen, it will give you your card back, and then a few seconds later your money will come out and then the transaction's finished. That's what happens in the UK anyway. Unfortunately in Thailand it's the other way around. So you'll key in your information into the keypad, and once a transaction has been approved, the machines in Thailand, all of them, they cough out the money first, and then a few seconds later they'll cough out the card. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but I do know quite a few people who have actually taken their money, and because they're psychologically they're so used to, once they've got their money in their country, that's the deal done, that's the transaction over. The money comes out, they take the money and they walk off, and as a consequence they've left their card in the machine. Okay, you might be able to go back into the bank and retrieve it later on. You might not be able to, but that's something you should remember. Just make sure you wait for your card after you've done that transaction. Number 2 is quite a good tip for you. Now, by law, you're supposed to carry your passport with you when you're out and about in Thailand. I never do because there's a risk of losing it, quite a high risk. So what I would say to you, and I did touch on this the last time, but in particular with your passport, what you want to do, as well as taking photographs, take photographs of everything, your flight details, your passport, everything that's very, very important to you. But something I hadn't mentioned on the last video, as well as keeping photographs on them, if you have access to the cloud, something like Dropbox or Google Drive, something like that, it's also worth having a special holiday folder in that drive just to upload them documents. You can do that from home before you go, and then if you completely lose your phone, and for some reason you lose your bag that had your passport, documents, everything, if you just happen to be very, very unlucky, then at least if you can get access to a computer, then you can go onto the cloud and retrieve that document. Okay, so you don't want to lose them very important documents. Okay, number 3, I talked to you in the last video about renting motorcycles, scooters, and something I didn't mention, but it's very, very important. Now, when let's just say motor scooters, let's take scooters as an example. So you're in Pattaya, you decide you want to rent a motor scooter to go around and see some of the sites, great way to get around. quite safe if you don't go crazy. So what will happen, they always want to keep your passport as a deposit, a safe keep. And it's not a good idea to actually hand your original passport. I know people have done it. You know, the problem is they've got you to ransom them, because what happens is if you bring that bike back and there's a scratch that was already there and they say to you, well, we want 5,000 baht to spray that mudguard, and you say, well, no, it wasn't me, and you haven't taken a photograph, you didn't video the bike before you left, you just got on it and went, which some people do, and there's a scratch on the mudguard, they say, right, we want 5,000 baht to spray that. You say, well, no, I'm not paying it because it wasn't me. You don't get your passport back then. What are you going to do? You've got to get your passport back. So what I'd say to you is photocopy your passport. You can do it before you go to Thailand. Take maybe half a dozen or 10 photocopies of your passport. Keep them with you. When you go to rent a motorcycle, you can show them the original and say, look, here's a copy and I'll sign it. Now, if they're really strict and they say, no, we must have your original, just walk away, go to another one. Because there are a lot of shops who will accept a photocopy, because all they want is the information. So if the bike goes missing or you disappear, they can contact the police. They've got your full name. They'll ask you what hotel you're staying in. They just need that information to ensure they're going to get the bike back. Most honest traders, that's what they want. Okay, so never leave your passport or driving license, anything like that. And something else while we're on the subject of motorcycles, if you haven't got a motorcycle license, it's a good idea not to rent a motorcycle in Thailand. I mean, in your own country. So you think you've covered everything, and then you have God forbid you should have an accident on your motorcycle. If you don't have a license in your own country, then they won't pay out. It's as simple as that. Okay, so very, very important. Number 4, what I would strongly suggest before you leave, contact all your financial institutions, your bank, building society, whoever you use, and just let them know that you're going to Thailand. Because what can happen, sometimes banks, they do random security checks. I've had this happen to me, but luckily I carry 2 or 3 cards. And what will happen, they'll see, you know, you'll take a couple of £100 out from an ATM machine in Thailand. You'll do that 2 or 3 times, and then they suddenly put a block on it because, you know, this card's registered to the UK. Not always, but they, you know, banks, they do random checks, and it can happen. So it's a good idea. You can either send them a letter or just give them a quick ring before you go and just say, look, I'm going to be in Thailand for a month. I'm going to be using my card. They'll put a record of that on the system, and if they're going to block the card, they'll see that and they won't block it. Okay, so just let them all know before you go away. Okay, number 5. So this is something that's happened to me. When you're in Thailand, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about paying for hotels, all right? I'm not talking about from your own country, but just say you're in Bangkok, you wanted to go down to Hua Hin or Pattaya, Rayong, whatever, you stay in a little budget hotel, your bill's, I don't know, £50, $60, something like that, and you give them your debit card or your credit card. Don't do it, pay with cash, because something that's quite a problem, especially in the non-star hotels, is card cloning. I had it happen to me. I was staying in a hotel in Sukhumvit Soi 4. I won't name the hotel because I believe it wasn't the hotel. I believe it was the staff working behind reception in conjunction with maybe an expat. Well, it would have been an expat. They'd have put some kind of swipe, some kind of card reader on the hotel's machine, nothing to do with the hotel. They probably didn't know about it. And what happened, I stayed there for a few weeks and I decided to pay my hotel bill with a debit card. I got back to the UK. About a month later, I got my statement, and there was £2,000 that had been spent that I hadn't spent. It was mainly in jewellery shops and, you know, high-end shops. I contacted my bank and they did an investigation and got the money back, so no harm done. But all I'm saying to you is don't give them the opportunity. If it's, you know, if it's a couple of £100 or less, just pay it in cash. And if you're going to stay there longer and get a bigger bill, maybe pay it as you go. Pay a couple of days, another couple of days. Try to avoid paying the hotel with your card. Okay, number 6. Now, something I mentioned about sunscreen and body creams and things like that. We were talking about prices, what you can get and what you can't get. But again, something that I didn't mention that's very, very important, and I'm just going to refer to my notes to this. It is actually, it is illegal to use sunscreen on beaches in Thailand because it bleaches the coral. and damages the ecosystem, and that is, they're very strict about that in Thailand. They have fines, big fines. They can start from $600 and there is, you could do jail time. So if you're one of those people who want to go to the beach and you want to use sunscreen, do a lot of research, look into the law, make sure you fully understand it. Now obviously if you're staying in your hotel, you go out to the pool in the afternoon, it's hot, you put your sunscreen lotion on, absolutely no problem. But if you're going to a beach, read up on the laws, because it is illegal. I haven't looked into it in such depth that I know every single criteria, but I know it's quite serious. And if you intend to go to the beach and you burn or you want to use sunscreen, then you should look at the law on that one. Personally, I don't worry about it too much, because in Thailand, when you go and sit on the beach, they generally have a full canopy of umbrellas. They're so tight together that you sit on a deck chair and the sun doesn't penetrate. It's bright, but the sun doesn't penetrate down on you. They have so many umbrellas together. It's like one big canopy. Okay, so something to remember there. Right, and I'm touching on many subjects that I mentioned in the first video, and I'm just reiterating some of the things that are very important that I might have missed on there. Now, I talked about Agoda in the first video, and I said that you can get the best prices on Agoda, because that is one of the many hotel booking systems, but it seems to be the main one that's used in Thailand for local hotels. So you want to book a hotel, you go on Agoda, you always get a better price than if you just walk into the front desk. So just something to bear in mind on that. It's not really a big deal, but if you're one of those people who stay in high-end hotels, so you stay in Hyatt, Accor, Hilton, Marriott, just remember, if you book with Agoda, then obviously you're not going to get your points and privileges. If you stay in Hyatt Regency, every time you go away, you have a club card or whatever they call it, and every time you check in, you'll get points and you'll get discounts and free room nights. Obviously, if you do that through Agoda, then all that's out the window. But a guy like me, I don't generally tend to stay in the Hyatt or somewhere like that. It's generally budget hotels, so it doesn't affect me. Okay, we had number 9 now. One of the points I'd mentioned I'm going to keep referring to the first video, volume 1 as it were. I was talking to you about tips. Some people like to tip in Thailand, some people don't. So this point is not that. I'm talking about something completely different now. Now, if you are a person who feels that you want to tip while you're in Thailand, some people deserve to be tipped, you feel like you've got very, very good service and you want to tip, that's fine. So my advice to you is always keep a lot of small denomination notes, so 20s, 50s and 100s, because there's nothing worse if you've paid your bill and you think, oh, hang on, that lovely waitress, she's been so nice to us, let's leave her 100 baht, and you haven't got 100 baht or you haven't got 50 baht. It's kind of a bit uncomfortable. So just, as a rule of thumb, if you haven't got any 100 bahts, the best places to change any 100 baht notes, 50 baht notes, the safest and best places to change a 1,000 baht note down into smaller notes is either the hotel reception, who have never said no to me, or the other place is 7-Eleven. You can get yourself a can of Coke, a drink or something, and get the change, and the notes are all good in 7-Eleven. So always keep some low denomination notes for the tips. Okay, now this one might seem a bit strange. Now, bear in mind, when you go into a lot of establishments in Thailand, especially if you're a tourist and you're visiting temples, you're going to have to take your shoes off. It's out of respect. You're not going to go, they're not even going to let you go in with shoes on. If you visit a Thai in a home or a temple or any place of worship, you will have to take off your shoes. Now just bear that in mind, guys, especially guys. Make sure you buy brand new socks before you go to Thailand, because there's nothing worse. You take your shoes off and you kneel down, or you're in that situation in a temple and you've got great holes in the bottom of your socks. Okay, just a little one there, but worth remembering. Okay, so Imodium is an anti-diarrhea tablet. Most people, when they come from their own country to Thailand, they will get runny stomachs, upset stomachs, because it's such a change to your body, the climate and everything, the climate, the food, the water that you're drinking. So you tend to, for me personally, when I get there, I tend to get the runs for probably not the first day, normally the second day, for about 24 hours. And you can pick up Imodium from any pharmacy. You don't need to say I've got diarrhea, or you just say, can you give me some just say Imodium, they know, and they're very, very cheap. When you're in Thailand, when you pass your first pharmacy, buy some of these, because you will need them. And another tip I've got for you: the night before you fly out, Hopefully you'll be used to it by then. But every now and again you can eat a meal in Thailand. Your body's used to it. You've been there a week, your body's used to it, but you eat something that's not maybe quite as fresh or is quite as clean. Your body does its job and it wants to throw it out. Well, when you're in Thailand, that isn't normally a problem. But the day before you fly back to your home country, you don't want that when you've got a 12-hour flight. So what I'd say to you, the day before you fly back to your own country after your vacation, just have Western food and try and eat in places where you've got less chance of contamination. Not so much food poisoning, but just some things maybe that aren't as clean as they should be, and maybe they would upset your stomach. And you do that the day before you get on the aircraft and you should be okay. I also talked in the last video about haggling, and I was talking about how much to haggle, how much of a percentage you should offer them to what you get. But something very, very important, which I missed again, and when you're in Thailand, haggle with a smile, and that is so important. It might seem like a small thing, but the Thais, they don't call it the land of smiles for nothing. So it's all a game. It's only a game. That's all it is. You're not going to offend anybody, as I said in the last video. So when you're haggling, just make sure you smile. They're going to smile at you. It's a big game. Eventually you'll come to your conclusion. You'll come to a settlement. He'll be happy, you'll be happy. But if it's done with a smile, you're much more likely to get a better deal. If you start getting aggressive, the guy won't want to even entertain you. He won't even care about your money, okay? So just haggle with a smile and you should get a better bargain. Right, let's talk a little bit about eating and where to eat. So all I'd like to say on this one, if you're a person, it's really, the service in Thailand is fairly good. But what I would say to you, when you're going out to eat, if you can eat Thai food, try and find, near your hotel or wherever, a small kind of restaurant, a small Thai, not the carts on the street, but a small maybe family restaurant, a Thai run restaurant that's fairly decent. And if you go there regularly and you're nice to the staff, you always smile and you're polite and you're not demanding, then you'll get food to die for, and they'll really look after you once you become a regular. So when you're there, you're going to go obviously into all the tourist, the malls, the restaurants and everything, but sometimes you can find a diamond in the rough, very local to where you are. And if you don't mind some Thai food, some rice, noodles, some real nice stuff, find yourself a nice little restaurant, Thai restaurant, tucked away down a quiet street. You go there twice or three times and you see the service you're going to get. They're going to really look after you, okay? Okay, so when you go to Thailand, something that's very good for in Thailand, it's good in a lot of countries, but especially Thailand, you can get suits, shirts, lots of clothes made by tailors, very good tailors actually, and the prices are so low. A handmade, a hand sewn full suit will cost you less in Thailand than off the shelf, a supermarket suit would cost you. Rubbish one really, it's just off the shelf, it fits you rubbish. But as in Thailand, they'll measure you and it's made for you. Just a tip on this one, there are a lot of tailors where they stand outside. These guys stand outside and they're just there all day, and as you walk by, they're suit sir, would you like a suit? Don't go into those ones, because you will be overcharged for definite, because they're looking for the tourists. They're standing outside trying to get people in, and they know when you're on holiday. And what you'll find is when you go into those sort of suits, especially along Sukhumvit, there's a lot of them, around Soi 3 and Soi 4. When you go in and ask a price, they'll quote you in US dollars. I mean, straight away, you're in Thailand, why are you quoting me in US dollars? I've actually said that to a tailor. So what I would suggest, if you want to go over there and get a few suits made up, you can go in, pick the material, summer cloth or winter cloth, some real nice material, some nice tailored shirts for work, whatever. You can get some good stuff. Now, all I'd say is try and talk to some locals, some foreigners who live there, and try and find a tailor's that they would go to, because it's good information. Because what will happen is when you go to that tailor's, you won't have, like in the other tailors, you go and you get measured once, your suit will be ready 24 hours later. Sounds great. But with the proper legit tailors who do a good job, who are not out to rip you out, you'll probably need to go back 3 or 4 times at least for fittings, and then when you get the suits, they'll fit you like a glove and they'll be the right price. So if you want to get some suits made or shirts, whatever, just try and find out who are the, which shops deal with the expats who actually live there, and then you'll get the best deals. All right. Okay, we're halfway through the list now. Number 15. So just remember, when you're there, we are actually guests in their country. Okay, they're very understanding, the Thais. They let a lot slip. Some things that they would have a go at with another Thai. They might not do it with a foreigner because, you know, they give you some slack. They know you're on holiday. You might not know their rules. They will give you a lot of slack, but they're not, you know, they're not stupid. They won't let you get away with stuff that you shouldn't. And all I was going to say on this one is if you do get into some kind of confrontation with a Thai, I'm not talking about coming out of a bar drunk and almost at fisticuffs fighting. I'm talking about, you know, if you have a dispute in a restaurant where you thought the bill should be this much, you've counted it up, the bill's come along and it's 300 or 400 baht more. Again, when you discuss this with the staff or the manager, don't get aggressive, don't raise your voice, because you'll lose any credibility or respect that the Thais would have had for you. Smile, keep your voice low, try to work it out with them. If you can't come to a satisfactory conclusion, just don't ever go back there again. But once you start getting pumped up and, you know, your feathers start coming up and everything, the Thais will just look down on you. You won't gain any brownie points. You know, you won't win whatsoever. Just stay calm, smile, try to discuss it reasonably, and they'll normally help you out. And if they've had a mistake, they won't admit they're wrong, but they'll give you the money back, okay? Right, number 16 is the laundry. Again, I talked about this one, but something I had forgot to mention on that one. I'll tell the whole thing again. So if you're in a hotel and you need to get some laundry done, don't give it to the hotel, because they'll just, as I said last time, they'll just take that laundry, especially budget hotel. They'll just take that laundry and give it to an outside laundry. But generally on this video, I just wanted to give you a ballpark figure what they charge. And generally they're charging about 50 baht a kilo, okay? So you're not going to take your bathroom scales in and weigh your washing, of course you're not. But just to give you a kind of, you know, an idea of what you should be paying, you know, you can stand there and kind of guess, but it's about 50 kilo. And you can actually ask the laundry when you go there, so, you know, how much do you charge? Some of them charge per item. So they'll say 15 baht a shirt, 10 baht a pair of underwear. I can't remember off the top, that might be too little or too much, but a lot of them, they do it by weight, and you can ask them, and if they turn around and say 75 baht a kilo, then, you know, jog on to the next one, as it were. Right, okay. I just want to talk a little bit more. I want to talk more about the transportation that I touched on again in the last video. Now, if you're in, say, for instance, Bangkok, and you want to go to Pattaya or Hua Hin or one of those beach locations, it's always tempting to jump in a taxi. It's easy, isn't it? A couple of thousand baht. But, you know, a couple of thousand baht, you're talking 50 pounds, 60 US dollars. That'll go a long way in a seaside resort like Pattaya. That'll buy you a lot of dinners. So all I wanted to tell you on this point today was, yes, there are buses. You can use buses. But in Thailand, the Toyota mini buses are very, very popular, and they go every hour or so from a lot of locations. So they're kind of luxury mini buses, 8 seats, leather seats normally. They have kind of curtains or shades to keep out the sun. So generally, just to give you an idea, you can pick them up at Edgamaya. You can look that up. Edgamaya, you can pick them up at the Victory Monument, and they go all over the country, and you don't need to book. You just go along, especially if you're a younger couple, you've got a couple of backpacks, you want to go to Hua Hin for 3-4 nights, you can get it all in a backpack, jump on the Sky Train, get to Edgamaya, you'll get to the bus station. If you're going to Hua Hin, for instance, the bus station, the mini bus station, it's in Sukhumvit Soi 50, as I remember, 50. And what will happen, you can get from Bangkok to Hua Hin, for instance, for 180 baht. Now that is cheap. That's cheap. It's a 3.5 hour journey generally. If you do it in a taxi, you're not going to pay less than 2,000 baht. Now that's a great saving. Even for two of you, you're talking 360 baht as opposed to 2,000 baht. So that'll get you at least a couple of nights in a budget hotel. Okay, so this one is we're on number 18, and this one is really, really important. And I'm pretty much guessing that you wouldn't have thought of this one. And I'm going to give you an extreme example on this one. So when you check into a hotel, you know, when you check into your room, there's always a laminated A4 sticker on the back of the door that says you are here, fire exit is here, and there's an arrow and it shows you how to get to the fire exit. When you check into any hotel, and every hotel, whether it be top end or especially budget hotels, and you're up, you know, a few floors, go and check the fire route at night. So what I mean to say by that is, you've got your card, you can see end of the corridor, turn left, and there's a fire door there. When you come back maybe 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, go to that fire door and just make sure you have access. It does open, because you're going to assume that if there's a fire, you've seen the map, you can get out of that door. There was a case years ago in Jomtien, and you can look this up on Google. I'm sure all the information is out there. There was a case years ago. It was a high-rise hotel in Jomtien. It had a reputation. It was a budget hotel, and people used to skip. Quite a few people. It was some people. I don't know how many people, but some people would check in. They didn't pay up front. They'd have their breakfast. They say we're popping out to get some toiletries or whatever. I'm just guessing now, and they were never to be seen again. And when you check in with a rucksack, it's very difficult for the staff to know that you're checking out. And what happened in this hotel in Jomtien, because they got fed up of it, so there were straight corridors, there was a fire door at the end of every corridor up the building, quite a high-rise hotel with a staircase leading down from each floor to the ground. And what the hotel did, they chained up the doors. There was a fire in this hotel and a lot of people died, a lot. But what I'm saying is don't risk it. If you check into a hotel, any hotel in Thailand, just go and check that fire door and make sure that if there's a fire, you can get out of that door. And I can't stress enough how important that is, because don't assume, make sure there's not a chain around it. Okay, let's lighten up the mood a little bit now. Here's one for the guys. Now, if you're a guy and you go out to Thailand by yourself, there will be occasion where, let's just say you meet a new friend and that friend might want to stay with you overnight. So before you check into a hotel, and again, I'm talking about local hotels. I'm not talking about when you book a hotel from your own country, but when you're in Thailand and maybe again you go down to a seaside resort or you change hotels, and you're thinking, well, I might bring some company back while I'm here. Just ask the hotel, is it a guest-friendly hotel? And is there any charge? And what you'll find with most of the hotels, especially the budget hotels, when you book a room, it's normally a double room. So their rule is, although you're there on your own, you've paid for a double room, there's a double bed inside, so you are entitled to have two people there without any extra charge. Some of the hotels, they do have what they call a joiner's fee. So if you bring a new friend back with you for the evening, then they will say, that's going to be 500 baht or 800 baht, whatever it is. So it's very important that you check. So if you go into a hotel, you say, is it guest friendly? Yes, it is. Is there any fee if I bring back a friend for a few drinks later on? No, that's included in the room. Fine, book, you can check in. But if they say, well, you can bring people back, but there's a charge of 500 baht, go to the next hotel. All right, very, very important. People just don't think of it and they end up losing not lots of money, but that's money they could have bought a nice dinner with. Okay, number 20. So Bangkok is a fantastic city for shopping. The ladies will absolutely love it. You've got literally hundreds of malls. I wouldn't like to count. So if you're one of those people, for me, I'm not really a shopping sort of person. I don't like shopping. I know if I need to buy some t-shirts or jeans, I'm in, I'm out, and that's it, done. I don't enjoy shopping. But there are some malls I do enjoy looking at, and not many, but the ones I like to look at are the computer kind of malls. So the ones that sell, laptops, memory sticks, USB sticks, microphones, you get the picture. So those kind of malls I can spend an afternoon around now and again. Now, if you're going to go to a mall and you're looking for something in particular, like you want to go and buy some clothes, or you want to go and buy some computer bits or whatever, it's not like every mall in Bangkok sells the same products. Some malls are very specialist. Like Pantip Plaza, they're very special on Phetchaburi Road. Pantip Plaza is on Phetchaburi Road, and they're very specialised in computers, laptops, that sort of thing. They have other shops. They've got cafeterias inside. They sell, there's all sorts of things on there, but they're mainly computer parts, cables, all that sort of thing. So if you want to go shopping, you've got something in your mind, ask the staff. Just say, look, we want to go shopping. We want to buy computer parts. Which is the best mall? And they'll tell you. They'll tell you. If you want to buy clothes, there's a lot of options in markets. You can buy some great cheap clothes. A lot of markets. Bangkok's fantastic for markets. But you might want to look at the higher end clothes. Not everybody wants to buy their clothes in markets. There are people who have a higher standard of living, more wealth than myself perhaps, and they want to buy some luxury goods. Then the thing to do there is ask the hotel staff. There's a high-end mall at the end of Soi 22, 24. That's a high-end mall. You've got Siam Icon. Is it Siam Icon or Icon Siam? They even sell sports cars in that mall. So just as a tip, if you're going to spend your day shopping, just ask the staff. Say, this is what we're looking for. Which mall specialise in it? If you don't care, if you're just going into a mall to look around, then it doesn't matter, does it? Okay, number 21, and this is with malls as well. What you might not know is most of the malls, they have food courts. So if you're shopping all day, okay, they have McDonald's, they have Burger Kings, they have all, Dairy Queen ice cream, everything. But you're in Thailand, you might want to do the Thailand, you know, you want to eat Asian food. You know, you haven't flown maybe 6,000 miles from the UK to sit in McDonald's, have you? So you want to eat some nice, delicious Thai food. So I have never come across a mall that doesn't have a food court, but most malls everywhere, all over Thailand, they will have a food court. How the system normally works, they'll have a cashier. You see what you want to buy, you get an estimation what it's going to cost. Say you've estimated you're going to spend 200 baht. You buy 200 baht worth of tickets, because they don't take cash, all these hawkers of food stalls. You'll get your food, give them the ticket, and you'll sit down and eat your meal. And if you've got any tickets left, you can go back and redeem them tickets for cash. For example, the MBK Centre is a very, very huge shopping mall. It's on the BTS SkyTrain. You can get off the BTS right there, the MBK Centre, and there's about 8 floors of products, mobile phones, electronics, some great clothes on the ground floor. There's lots. So if you're hungry while you're going around there, you go up to the top floor. I can't remember what floor it is, but it's the top floor, and you've got a huge food court there. Again, you go to Terminal 1 on Sukhumvit, another mall there. When you go in the basement, they've got another food court there. So just remember, if you're out and about, you don't want to spend heaps of money, go into any mall, top floor or ground floor, basement actually, the basement, and you'll normally find food. Right, let me just talk a little bit about when you're going back. There's a tip here. When you're going back, you might want to take a gift from the duty free in the airport. So you might want to take some cigarettes back, or you might want to take some alcohol. Although it's duty free, sometimes it can actually work out more expensive than if you buy it in town, because it's not like the old days. Now in Bangkok, you can buy just about everything. You know, you might want to take back a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label whiskey for a brother or something, a father or something like that. And you know, sometimes it's actually cheaper to buy it in the 7-Eleven than what it is at the airport. So maybe when you come in, if you've got a bit of time, I know you're not going to land and start looking around shops. I don't know, maybe you can get a price list. King Power in the air, it's called King Power. Maybe you can have a look online and you get some prices from there. And something you've got to be really, really careful of, if you're a smoker, what's very, very popular in the airport now is these packs of 400 cigarettes. So you'll go in and you'll pick up 200 cigarettes and the sales lady or guy will say, well, look, if you buy this one, it's 20-30% cheaper and it's 400. First thing you think, good deal, I'll get 400 rather than the 200. Just remember, when you get back to the UK, for instance, I'm not a smoker now. I used to be a heavy smoker, so I haven't checked recently, but I think it's 200. I think you can bring 200 cigarettes into the UK. So if you go ahead and buy that 400 carton, you come back into the UK and you're only permitted to bring 200 in, then obviously they'll take them off you, or you'll have to pay tax on them, and they're not cheap anymore, okay? Okay, so here's a little tip for you. When you're dealing with the Thais, whether it's your first time to Thailand or your 5th time to Thailand, when you're out and about, you're in shops, restaurants, everything, a lot of the time Thais will say to you, oh, is it your first time to Thailand? You've visited before or not? A lot of the time, most of the Thais are very nice people. They're not out to do anything devious, but you have got, obviously, like anywhere else in the world, you've got the scammers, the cheaters, people who want to try and get one up on you. And a lot of the time, if they say to you, is it your first time to Thailand? That's information that if you turn around and you say, yeah, we've just come today, it's our first time in Thailand, straight away they know you don't know anything about pricing, anything about Thailand, and they can go in for a bit of a scam. So what you're better off doing, even if you haven't been there before, don't exaggerate. Just say to them something like, no, we've been here, you know, it's my 2nd or 3rd time. I really like your country, it's lovely, or it's wonderful. And that way you're not kind of saying, well, I live here, and exaggerating. But don't sort of say, yeah, well, you know, I'm kind of, it's my first time, I don't know anything, because you're opening yourself up to you know, being ripped off. Just a little tip there. Now, on the last video, I talked about transportation, taxis, tuk-tuks, BTS. So I'm not going to get into that in a big way. But something again I forgot to mention is when you get into a tuk-tuk or a taxi, this might seem like common sense, but more so in Thailand, never give the taxi driver or the tuk-tuk driver a banknote bigger than 100 baht note. Your journey might be 200-300 baht, even 400 baht. Give them 400 single 100 baht notes, because what will happen, it's always the same. You give 1,000 baht note or a 500 baht. Say you give them a 500 baht note and the fare's 50 baht, and it's like, oh, not have, you know, and they start messing about. And in the end, some people, they get to the stage of just saying, you know what, forget it, I can't be bothered. So just make sure, again, like with the tips where you prepare yourself, get 1,000 baht, put it in your pocket in 100 bahts, 50 bahts, just for tips. Do the same for taxis and tuk-tuks, and especially tuk-tuks, because they will definitely rip you off. Okay. Now here's something that seems to be only unique to Thailand. I say seems because I haven't personally come across it anywhere else. When you go into a restaurant, let's just say a couple go into a restaurant, you and your wife, you go in and you order a delicious meal, you're sitting there and waiting for it. Now normally anywhere else, when the food's ready, the waitress will come out and she'll put 2 plates down on the table and you both eat and that's it. What happens a lot, and it does happen a lot, you'll go in with your wife, you'll order your food and one meal will come out. Your meal will come out or her meal will come out. Now, what happens, you're sitting there, and this has happened to me lots and lots of times, but I'll tell you a way out of it. So you're sitting there and you want to eat with your wife. You don't want to eat alone and then watch her eat, right? So you'll be sitting there watching your food get cold and your wife or your girlfriend will say, no, that's fine, mine will be here soon. Go ahead, you start. Well, of course, you feel uncomfortable, don't you? Because they're hungry and they're watching you eat. So you don't want to eat alone, you want to eat together. So what most people tend to do is they'll wait for the partner's food to come out. So what happens, the partner's food comes out 5-10 minutes later, your food is now cold. Okay, this isn't a foolproof plan, this doesn't work every time, but what I would say to you is this. When you order in very slow English, don't speak too fast, just say to the girl or whoever it is you made the order, say, you bring together, please. Not one, bring together. And make sure she understands it. And hopefully that'll work. It doesn't always work, but there's nothing more irritating. And I don't blame them because it's just the way they do things, especially in the smaller restaurants. If they cook on a one dish and it's ready, you've ordered chicken fried rice or something, they'll just send it out. They don't have this concept of, well, that would better stay under a hot light because the other one's not ready. They'll send it out and then they'll send the second one out. So, just try and communicate and just say, look, bring the food together, both together, not separate. Just make your eating experience a lot nicer. I just wanted to talk, we're on 26 now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the department stores around Thailand. You can pretty much get everything now, so don't worry about taking a suitcase full of every conceivable item you think you won't be able to get in Thailand. You can get just about everything now, even Marmite and cheese and I can't think, jelly beans, you can get anything. But some things are a lot more expensive than they are in your country, but how much are you going to buy when you're on holiday? And you probably won't buy too much food from a supermarket. But to give you an example, cheese tends to be quite expensive in Thailand compared to your own country. It is compared to the UK anyway. But you can pretty much get anything. Just that will take me quite nicely into 27. A lot of countries around the world, they're not tea drinkers, they're coffee drinkers. I myself, I rarely drink tea. I'm a coffee drinker. Now, if you come from a country where you prefer to drink tea, a lot of English people prefer to drink tea, I would highly recommend taking your own tea bags, because in Thailand they tend to just do this yellow Lipton tea and it's rubbish. Actually, it's not very good at all. And what happens when you go into a hotel, they always supply a kettle, the little milk, the little pots of milk, sugar, coffee and all the rest of it, tea bags, but it's always Lipton. It's not very good. So just get yourself a small box of tea bags to take with you if you're a person who likes tea. And another thing I'd recommend is, instead of using those kind of creamy milk, kind of what's it called, Unigate milk, is it, that never goes off, just pop across to 7-Eleven. They sell fresh milk in there. All the hotels have a fridge in the room, so if you like a coffee or a tea as soon as you wake up, go and get yourself a bottle of fresh milk. Make sure there's no sugar in it, because a lot of the products have got sugar in it. Ask the staff, use Google Translate as I said the last time, get yourself a small bottle of milk, keep that in your fridge, and then you can make yourself a nice coffee in the morning. Okay, we're nearly done now. This is number 28. So it's very doubtful that you'll have an appointment with a Thai when you're on vacation, because you're not there on business, so you don't need to make appointments. But there might be an occasion where you do arrange to meet a Thai person, and generally that might be for something like a tour. You might have met a tour agent who just does one-on-one tours. So you've met a girl who said, I'll take you around the old city, I'll meet you on Sukhumvit 22, at this particular location at 9 a.m. and you get there at 5 to 9 because you're keeping time like you do in your country. It's very, in Thailand, it's very, they're not strict on the time. Be prepared to wait. If somebody says they'll be there at 9, they'll probably be there at 9:30, 9:45. I've got friends who do it. They've been in Thailand too long. They'll keep me waiting. It irritates me, but I have to bite my lip. So just keep that in mind. It's a very kind of laid back. They have a laid back way of doing things, and that time, that appointment might be so important to you, but it's not so important for them. They will turn up, but you've got to be patient. And the number one excuse, as always, even though they've got the Sky Train now, even though they've got plenty of taxis, even though they've got the Underground, they'll always say the traffic. Sorry I'm late, but it was a traffic. Great excuse. Okay, let's finish now. These are two, the last two I'm going to finish with are related, and these are really the don'ts. You know, I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not going to do this is not going to be a 30 things you shouldn't do in Thailand. It's going to be a positive video. So you should be aware that the royal family, you should never ever disrespect the royal family when you're in Thailand. I'm sure you're a sensible person, you would never do it. Don't even speak about the royal family. Don't ever mention the royal family. You'll see in Thailand twice a day, I think it's 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. They play the national anthem. Everybody stops in the street out of respect, and they stand to attention for about a minute. If you're caught in that situation, I would highly recommend you to stop and do the same. I did it. I went to see Simon at Bang Na, about 18 kilometers outside of Bangkok. I was walking outside from the Sky Train, a lot of people around. National anthem started up at 6 o'clock on the speakers. Everyone stood to attention. I did the same. When in Rome, as they say. So never try to keep away from the royal family subject. Anything to do with the royal family, because you'll come unstuck big time. It's not like where you come from again. They revere the royal family. Okay. So with that in mind, there's a couple of other things you need to realise. The banknotes. If you drop a banknote and it's a little bit windy, never stamp on the note to stop it blowing away, because you're disrespecting the king. The king's head is on the banknote. If you drop the banknote and it goes on the floor and you stamp on it, it's very disrespectful. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't be rolling up banknotes and putting them in your socks, because again, I know people do it. I've done it in the past, because if you go out, you want to make sure you've got 1,000 baht tucked away somewhere safe if you get robbed or lose your wallet, you know. But then you do that in the privacy of your room, or in the toilet. If you're in a bar, go into the toilet, lock the door, and do it very carefully. Don't ever let a Thai person see you do that, because again, it's disrespectful. And lastly, on the banknotes, if you're sitting and you order a drink, for instance, or you're paying for your food, never chuck the note, never chuck it. So you sit in a bar, don't chuck it. I don't mean in a rude way, but in your own country, they'll give you the bill, and you might just take the money and just plonk it on the bar kind of fast like that. Don't do it, because it's disrespectful. For them, they take it like you're disrespecting the king, because his face is on the note. So just place it under the bill cup, or give it to the waitress, or put it on the tray. That's a respectful way to do it. Okay, so that's my second 30 tips. That's 60 in total, and I hope, if you're going to Thailand for the first time, I hope you're going to take these on board. You might want to go off and research the ones that you think will be important to you. There's a lot of very good videos on YouTube now on every single subject. I have a lot of videos on my channel about some of these subjects. You'll see a lot of videos that I've made them as well. 20 scams to look out for in Thailand, 10 things that could get you in trouble in Thailand. And sometimes I'll get comments, like other YouTube creators. I'll get comments and people say, oh, I don't think I'll go to Thailand. It looks really unsafe and really dangerous. It's not. People make those kind of videos just to make you aware of certain situations that can happen, like they happen anywhere in the world. But generally speaking, Thailand is a wonderful country. The people are very, very polite, very, very accommodating. You'll have a great time if you go to Thailand. The culture is great. The food is great. You'll have an absolutely fantastic time. So the same as the first video, number 31, make sure you enjoy it. Have a real good time. And if it's your first time to Thailand, I can guarantee you'll want to go back a second and a third time. Okay, so thanks for watching this video again. I'll catch up with everybody real soon.